Hi everyone! Today we're going to explore the medium of colored pencils. So this is a medium that you probably have used before, and it's a pretty popular art material. I'm going to pick a couple colors that are similar on the color wheel. So I have a red and a yellow, and let's start with a very simple one, and that is hatching and cross hatching. So hatching is where you use directional lines. You can go diagonal. You could go vertically or even horizontally. So let's try what cross-hatching is. Cross-hatching is where you basically lay down a layer of lines in one direction and cross over them. Great way to add texture. So stippling is where you use a bunch of little dots to create a nice texture. Stippling can take a long time, but can have really beautiful effects. All right, scumbling is a lot of fun. That is where you are basically just scribbling, but purposefully. Another really good one is layering, and this is where you might use the side of your pencil and create nice thin layers of color. And again, holding it sort of like, not like how I would write a letter, but more like the side of my pencil. Kind of holding it on the side like this. Okay, so layering can take some time as well. I'm just going to move on at this point, but you can start to see the colors shine through and the beauty of the tones shining through. So the next one I want to show you is burnishing and then scraping. Burnishing is simply where you build up layers using any type of mark making, and you want to do that until you have a smooth, waxy surface. You can rub over it. I'm actually going to use this whole area and show you what I mean about scraping. Kind of go a little quicker here. So any kind of mark making, but you want to really build up the layers for burnishing. Sort of waxy appearance, but I have a little bit more work to do to get there. Okay, so I went over this area a lot, and as you can see when I kind of move the paper, it's a little bit shiny and waxy, and that's because I went over it multiple layers at a time. And you can see this one isn't as waxy. layering. The other ones aren't as waxy as the burnishing. Now you could rub over this with a spoon. There's lots of ways to make it even waxier. You know, I don't really have a spoon right here, but like I could rub over it with this plastic scissors here. I don't really know if that helps or not, but I know some people like to rub over with like a metal spoon and really burnish it and get it nice and smooth and shiny. So there's lots of ways to do that. Now scraping is where you use an X-Acto blade and you remove some of the pigment. When I say pigment, I mean the material or the color. So scraping is actually, like using it like this, is a technique called sgraffito, where you're scratching to remove. This is something pretty popular in like oil pastels, but you can definitely do it in, you know, other mediums as well, like colored pencils. So scratching to remove is something that maybe you haven't considered with colored pencils, but you could build up layers and then pull back out the highlights. Kind of a lovely idea. I use a lot of texture. I love texture in my work. And this is something I even do over my watercolor paintings. I always scratch back into the surface. I don't have a painting handy, but I do have this, like, this is one of my paintings, but it's a postcard. But I did a lot of scratching back in to the surface throughout, and you can kind of see that I did it in here and in here, in there. And it helps to bring back the highlights, but also add texture to the work. Okay, so another fun one you might have is using some sort of solvent. And I'm going to just do this one really quick. I'm going to add a couple colors that are similar. A red and a blue. Not sure if I like those red and blues together. Not all primaries are the same. That is a fact. When I say not all primaries are the same, I mean you have to know which reds and blues you're going to mix together to get a nice purple. And I don't think these two are going to give me a nice purple, but that's okay. We'll just see what happens. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. Probably this red, Crimson Lake, will give me a nicer purple. So we'll add that in there. All right. Now, why don't we transition to another color just for fun so you can see what happens. How about we add yellow? Here are the primaries: red, blue, and yellow. Primary colors are the main colors in the color wheel. You cannot mix them. You have to buy them at a store. But you can make all the other colors in the color wheel using the primaries. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the yellow over the blue to make the green. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of the red over the blue to make the purple. Just a little bit. Again, I don't think that's going to make a nice purple, but I guess we'll find out. We'll add this one. This red-violet color called Crimson Lake. That will help. Okay, so using a baby oil or rubbing alcohol could be a nice way to add some color. Some blending to your color. So I have right here, there's a lot of things you could use. Some people use like a rubbing alcohol, and some people like to use baby oil. Some people like to use olive oil or just a mineral spirits, but I just grabbed some baby oil because it's something that maybe you have in your house or that you could get pretty cheap. So here's something that we could try. Now I put some in a little bit of a container here with a lid, and I'm going to use a Q-tip actually. You could use a paintbrush or a Q-tip, and you probably want to have like a paper towel handy for sure. And then I dropped the whole thing in. That's lovely. All right, got a new one. So I'm going to start by kind of mixing these two together and seeing how this works. The goal of the solvent is to melt or soften the pigment. The pigment is what is the color. All right, so there's one left. And what I did up here was a watercolor wash, just a really simple watercolor wash. And I thought that maybe that would, if you had watercolors, you could try this. And what you could do is you could just simply try coloring over top of a watercolor wash. Now, why is this nice? For some people, getting rid of the white space is a really great idea. And it helps you feel like you can get started and you don't have to start from square one, and you can get some really beautiful effects. So I just grabbed a white, and I accidentally got some yellow in there, but I don't hate it. So I'm going to actually purposefully add a little bit of yellow. Okay, yeah, so this is like just a nice thing to try if you wanted to, and if you had watercolor paints, you could try doing a light wash of watercolors and then doing your drawing over top with your colored pencils. All right, so your goal today is to try as many of these techniques as you can. Definitely, for sure, if you're choosing to do colored pencils, you can try the hatching, stippling, scumbling, cross hatching, layering, burnishing, scraping. You could try just with a regular kitchen knife or something else if you don't have an X-Acto. And if you have any kind of solvent at all, even like an olive oil or a Vaseline or a baby oil or rubbing alcohol, I want you to try that if you can. Layering, and then the watercolor wash if you have it. If you don't have this, just try doing like a nice sky. Just try doing like a nice light gradient. Try blending soft. But all right, so get this material exploration done and then put it onto your Spark page. Have fun.